All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and backup on TSN 4. Brian Hayes, Frankie Corrado, both in studio. How's it going, Frank?
Good, man. Nice to be back. Nice to be back on TV. Shout out to JP getting us back up and running. Real good job by JP.
Yeah, JP's got more power in this company than anybody. Yeah. And he decided last week we needed to be off TV. We were going to have a hiatus for a week. And there really wasn't much of an explanation. I kept getting people sending me notes like, what's up? And I honestly didn't have an answer other than we're just off TV for a week. We'll be back on Monday, which I thought I said a couple of times on the show. But, hey, listen, it's great that people support us and people want to watch us on TV or listen or stream or jump on the app. You know, you can find the podcast everywhere. There's a lot of different ways you can find us. But JP decided we weren't going to be on TV, and now JP decided we're back. I mean, that's really as simple as it can get.
He pulls the strings around here, and you dressed up for the occasion. You're ready to rock. It's Monday. There's a lot happening, a lot to talk about, and
yeah, that's right.
You dressed for the occasion, man.
Well, I was doing a Sports Center hit. That's why.
No big deal.
I mean, listen, it is what it is. You head over, and you know what I've had to improve on is my shoe game because you're doing the stand-up over there, and every once in a while you can see the shoes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm cycling through as many suits as I can get. It's not like I'm doing a ton of Sports Center hits, but it's cool to get there. You've done a bunch of them, obviously, and that allows me to kind of spice up the wardrobe a little bit.
Hazy SC is your new name.
Hazy SC, I like that. Instead of Hazy B, let's go with Hazy SC.
When you're doing a Sports Center hit, and let's go to Hazy SC from the Whitby Bureau.
That'd be even better if I was on location somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, for no reason whatsoever. Even if I was doing the show in here, maybe I can do it from the parking lot.
Well, that could be the name of your segment, right? Like what's Noodles has one. It's Tasteful Nudes. He does with Jay Onright, and you could have one like, let's go. Here's Hazy SC, and it's it's a picture of you. We got the SC logo. There's something there.
There's something there for sure. You're a creative guy, and I'm sure the wheels will be in motion here, right? Maybe it'll be Hazy X. We just follow the lead of Twitter, right? Don't call me Twitter anymore. It's X, because Elon Musk has just decided that he's going to change things. I'm not sure anyone's even paying attention to him anymore. You know, like, because it's still the same way to log in. It's the same app. You open it on your phone. You open it on the computer. It really doesn't matter to me what it's called as long as it operates the same way.
Yeah. We need instant news.
Yeah, and I'm convinced, like, he thinks everyone is so hyped for all these things, and I don't think anybody cares.
Who could be hyped about this?
Nobody cares. It doesn't change anything.
I haven't seen you in a little while. I've been off. Did you make a Threads account? Were you one of those people that said, hey, I'll be switching to Threads.
No.
Here I am.
Never did that.
SC.
Never did that.
No?
I was aware of what Threads was about, and it was around for about 48 hours as a legitimate competitor. And now my understanding is nobody's over there.
Dude, was it legitimate, though? Like, was it actually legitimate? I feel like everyone went over there, maybe put something in, and then went back to Twitter. Oh, everyone's still here? All right, we'll just hang out on Twitter.
I think what we've learned as a society is if there's something new and there's a chance it blows up, you've got to get your handle quick, right?
Okay.
Like, it's kind of like, I think this started with email, where ideally, I'd have Brian Hayes at whatever.com in perpetuity the rest of my life. Clearly, that's never going to happen because there's so many Brian Hayeses around the world. Even if you have a rather obscure or original name, chances are there are other people that have it too, and they've already got there first. So you're going to be Frank Corrado 7 at yahoo.com or whatever, right? And I think that was a part of what was driving it was people realized I got to get there quick in case it blows up. Because I want to have a good handle. I don't want to get there late and nothing's left.
You just want to get there and be at Hayes.
Ideally, I'd be at
Brian.
Hayes.
You just want to be like, I am the guy.
Yes.
I got Brian or I just got Hayes and no one can touch me.
Perfect world scenario. I am at Hayes for the rest of time.
Easy to remember.
It would be great.
Yeah, no underscore, nothing. No
Nothing.
Numbers. You are at Hayes.
Nothing. I don't want anything else. Just at Hayes. That would be great. But obviously, that's not a possibility. So, yeah, that came and went pretty quickly.
But that was kind of crazy because people had enough of Elon Musk, and then they were like, "Actually, I think I'm going to go to Mark Zuckerberg."
Right, like that's even better.
Like that's Mark Zuckerberg.
That's what I'm
great.
looking for. Yeah, exactly. That's precisely what I want is to be in bed with Zuckerberg even more than I already am, and that's what we have to deal with. Zuckerberg, Musk. I mean, to their credit, I guess they own it, and they're going to do whatever they want to with it. But it's good to be back. It's good to see you. Like you mentioned, there's stuff going on. I was at SC doing some stuff on the Leafs, on the Jays. The Jays dropped 2 or 3 over the weekend. Now they're in L.A. with the Dodgers waiting for them. It's not going to get easier.
You like this interleague play? Like,
yes.
You want to see the Dodgers? They had the Padres. You're for more of these games?
I am. Yeah. I think it makes sense. I remember growing up as a kid, obviously it didn't happen. You wouldn't see like the Braves unless you made it to a World Series. You wouldn't see the Phillies unless you made it to a World Series. And then they slowly started bleeding it in. And I think what really drove it was the Yankees playing the Mets, the Cubs playing the White Sox, the Dodgers playing the Angels. And then beyond that, they realized, okay, we'll just connect it with whoever else. But I think that's the nature of sports now.
Yeah.
You want it to bleed into each league, into each conference. You want the ability to see your team play almost everyone. And now it's been so far gone that you can't even remember the days of American League, National League.
No.
Like on its own. Like Interleague's been around for so long.
Yeah, exactly. And all the sports too, even with hockey. Remember the days where it was like you would go see a team in the West like every other year. That seems so long ago now.
Right.
It's all one league. Everyone's got less divisional games, but the divisional games mean a lot now.
Well,
you have them.
I'm wondering which league is going to be the first one to just jump all the way in and get rid of divisions, get rid of conferences, get rid of leagues altogether. A lot of it is based on, geography, specifically with the NBA and the NHL, where it's East versus West. But that's not the case with baseball.
No.
Like it's not necessary that you have, a league set based on geography because they're not operating under that umbrella right now. And the same thing to an extent, I guess with the NFL you do, but AFC and NFC, I guess it's the same. Like you have divisions within it, West, North, South, East, whatever. But it seems like there's an ongoing fight right now. I would say it's really between the NBA and baseball because the NFL is so far ahead and so much more lucrative, they don't feel like they have to do anything. I get the impression like the NHL is so far behind that they're just like, this is who we are and this is what we're going to do. And what I mean by that is in terms of changing things, being fearful of changing your identity, how you operate, what you do with your playoff system. Are you going to have a play-in game? Are you going to have different wild cards? Are you going to have a mid-season tournament? Like it feels like the NBA is leading the charge of really almost throwing everything up against the wall, and they're going to try to figure out what they do differently. And I guess that's probably my answer, is that I would suspect it will be the NBA.
Yeah.
Like at some point, they'll just get rid of divisions, get rid of conferences, and their playoff structure will be top 16, 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, and away you go.
It would be intriguing to have that 1 versus 16. There's just so many different possibilities, teams that you don't maybe see as much.
Right.
It would be very cool. There was a league out in Europe when I was playing there that they actually let you pick your team that you
I love
play
that
in the
idea.
first round.
I think that'd be the greatest entertainment in sports history.
We think you are bad and we are going to beat you, so we select you.
Right.
There's some pressure.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and beat them.
Absolutely. The game planning that would have to go into that, technically we wouldn't play this team based on points percentage, but we went 4-0 against them during the regular season. Their best players hurt. We're taking them. We're taking the 4 seed. We're taking the 4 seed instead of the 16 because we think we can beat them.
That would be wild. Have you watched any of that quarterback documentary?
I haven't, and so many people are already talking about it.
I don't want to ruin anything, but there's a cool scene where Mahomes is talking about like the Bills versus the Bengals, and he's like, we match up better against the Bills. Like, I think that would be a better opponent for us, but he goes, I want the Bengals. He goes, I want Joe Burrow, right? Like I think that's kind of cool, right? Like, and those are the conversations that you would have when you're talking about.
That's a different angle. Like that's bravado, right? Like that's like we're gonna pick you because we want you because we want to prove
no
that
more
we're
of this
better
Burrow
than you.
head and all this stuff saying Burrow. No.
Do you think Mahomes was hedging his bets a little bit, knowing the cameras were on, or then he can't lose in a way like? If it is the Bengals, I'm on record saying that's who I want, even though I don't really want it. But the Bills are the team we match up better against.
Without having the context of watching it, I could see how that could make sense. But then when you watch it and you see his personality up close, you're like, no, I think he's just pretty genuine. Yeah. That's just how he is. He's just built. The guy's just built different.
Oh, he's a dream.
He's just built different.
It's a miracle.
He's a great leader.
It's an absolute miracle that he fell into their lap in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And
he's there forever now.
And now he's there forever. He's already signed a long-term deal that's already not lucrative enough for him.
Yeah.
Like he's already given money back.
Exactly.
And he's won multiple rings, multiple MVPs. He's now in pursuit of greatest of all time. Like you don't see that very often in a guy's career where you're 5-6 years into it and he's got a clear-cut vision that is attainable. It may not be realistic, but it's attainable. Mahomes can do it.
Yep.
I don't think McDavid can do it because I don't think the hardware is going to be there, and I think you need both.
You think the team hardware is not going to be there for him? And
the international hardware, which he got screwed on that. That's not his fault. But Gretzky's got the 87 Canada Cup.
McDavid's missed like 8 years now of international hockey, right? Like he's been in the league at least that long.
Yeah. Like I don't think he can do it now. I don't think he can get there. Someone might make the argument, likely will. We've heard it, the Quizmaster, most evolved, which is completely arbitrary. Yeah. But
you could say Mahomes is like the quarterback version of that. Like the stuff that he does.
Sure.
Brady he's great in the pocket, right? Like unbelievable. And there's been a lot of those quarterbacks, but Mahomes, his ability to throw out of the pocket and read and react is, we haven't seen that really. Not the way he combines both of them.
Right. But he's also got the winning, right?
Yeah.
Like he's been to 3 Super Bowls already. What might hurt him in 20 years is the one he lost was against Brady.
Right.
Like in the moment, it was just about, the new guy versus the old guy and the amazing part of it. But when you're in the context of like sports media and hot takes, like that may hang over him for a long time. That the one he lost, that was against TB12.
Yeah.
And he's got a long way to go, but he's well on his way of accumulating team hardware, personal hardware, and I think it's got to be a combination of both.
Yeah.
Like that's why I don't think Mike Trout. Like I think Mike Trout was in a similar spot 5 years into his career. It was like this guy could be a guy we look back on and say greatest, but he's not going to have any playoff success ever.
It's such a shame.
It's never going to happen.
That's why I think there's so much intrigue as to where does Shohei Ohtani go, because he's got to go somewhere where he can kind of make some hay here and start winning championships or be in the playoffs, all that kind of stuff. Like he needs to be under the bright lights, and we're talking September ball. Like this guy needs to be front and center.
Yes. Now at this point, he doesn't have control over that, right? No. If he gets flipped, he's going to whoever paid the most to acquire him. And I don't know what to think of it. Like for me, I want to see it happen. I want to see him out of LA. I want to see this trade. It's going to be remarkably complicated. Whoever gets him is immediately a must-see TV item and will immediately improve. And there's likely only 6 to 8 teams that really think it would make sense to acquire him.
Yeah.
Right? I've made the case for the last week and a half. I think the Blue Jays should be one of those 6 to 8 teams. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think that's their MO. They may not have enough assets to do it anyway.
Every time you hear about what they got coming up, it's like, it's not that exciting. It's good, it's serviceable, but I don't know. That's not going to get you Ohtani. Like if you're talking about 6 to 8 teams that really think they have a chance at winning the World Series and they can get Ohtani, I think they're throwing the kitchen sink. Like everything that doesn't matter right now is probably going for Ohtani.
Right, you would think so. Yeah, you would think so, and I think it would likely be worth it. Like it's tough to stomach, but you get Ohtani.
Yeah.
You get Ohtani for 2 months and into the playoffs. Like, he just hit his 36th home run over the weekend. 36. The guy's got a 3 ERA.
Crazy.
Like, he's a machine, and you're right. Like, I don't know enough about him to know, where his priorities are at. The money's going to be there wherever he signs. He's going to make a fortune.
Yeah.
But is it more about lifestyle? Is it more about being on the West Coast? Or is it actually about winning? Because I'm not sure if you can marry them all together.
Well, when he is who he is, he's such a unique character, an individual, it's hard to figure that kind of stuff out. Like, you look at other athletes, like, okay, we talk about it here in Toronto all the time with Nylander and Matthews. Nylander, we have a better grip on. Matthews, maybe not so much, but we have an idea for the personality and maybe, like, what they're kind of seeing, what their vibe is. I can't figure that out for Shohei Ohtani. There's no way.
Right.
No way you can figure that out.
No, I don't know enough, and I hope he gets flipped. I hope he gets flipped just for the content that would come with it.
Why
the idea
of
him
flip him though?
Well, because they got an owner there that wants to hold on to some sort of belief that maybe they can get back in the race. It's not likely, but they're only 2 games over 500. Like, we all remember where the Jays were at when they went on that run. They were 50 and 51 when they acquired Price and Tulo.
Yeah, they were knocking on the door at that point.
They were knocking on the door at that point.
Angels
and they had
4 games back. 4 games back of the last wild card spot, but they're going to have to catch the Yankees, the Red Sox, and then the Blue Jays.
Right. It's an uphill battle. I don't think it's going to happen, especially with Trout remaining out for a while. But it's close enough where the owner and the GM may sell themselves on the idea of going for it, keeping people in the seats because Ohtani's here, sending a message out that you're still trying to keep him. It might go deeper than the actual standings. Really, it's about
business,
your business,
maybe
your team philosophy.
Some special jersey nights before he's out of town.
Very well could be the case.
Some more Ohtani jerseys.
Yeah, the Ohtani jersey on his way out of town. Exactly. His last home game. Come get them. Hot off the presses. Shohei will not be back in this uniform ever again. But the Jays weekend was what we expected. Crazy crowds out there in Seattle. You can pick up on it even when you're watching, right? Like, it seems like a really high bucket list item for Blue Jay fans. I would suggest doing Yankee Stadium and or Fenway before you do anything else.
Have you done both of those?
I've done both of those. It's phenomenal. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's AL East. There's more history there.
Is it hostile? Like guys yelling at you? Is it exactly how you picture
loud.
it? You're wearing. Did you wear a Blue Jays hat?
No, not going down that road. Not in the Bronx.
You wouldn't do it.
That. I'm not going down that road, man. I don't need that kind of stuff in my life.
Camouflage.
You've heard too many.
Easy.
Now, New York, like the new Yankee Stadium, my understanding is it has softened, and it was a great experience. But the old Yankee Stadium, like you went there in the 70s or 80s, like you were lucky to get out of there alive, basically. And the tickets were cheaper, the booze was cheaper. So I would start with Yankees, Sox, and then maybe you go to Seattle next. But it was a really cool series, and I think the Jays left town thinking they spoiled a sweep. Like they had the Friday night game in their hands, they had Saturday's game in their hands, they let it get away from them. There's something about Seattle and having a lead against them in games that seem important.
Dude, and Cal Raleigh, this guy just seems to light the Jays up.
Always.
Yeah. Catcher, just hitting bombs left, right, and center.
Well, the one they got yesterday, Manoah was on the mound, and I did not leave that game feeling any better about the likelihood that he's going to supply you with like plus production the rest of the way. And I think Ross Atkins finds himself in the worst possible spot before the trade deadline because you don't have a grand slam playoff team just based on the standings. You feel good about it, but currently they're in the third wildcard spot. You got the Yankees and Sox behind you, maybe Seattle, maybe the Angels. I think they're a playoff team. I think they'll get there. But you're not Atlanta.
No.
You're not so far in. You're not Baltimore, Tampa, where you feel like you have even more wiggle room at this point. The Jays do not have that luxury. But you are on the verge of a six-man rotation when Hyun-Jin Ryu returns. 6 names of value league-wide, like 6 veteran arms, 5 of which are getting paid a lot of money. The only one that's not is Manoah. But I think you can only trust 3 of them right now. So you're going to have 6 guys available to you, and for me, it's Gausman, who's clearly still banged up a little bit. I think he'll get over it. We saw him start. I think he'll be fine.
Even when he struggles a bit, like the stat line still looks pretty good. It's respectable. Like he battled through. He gave up 4 home runs, and he still battled through that game.
Yeah, velocity down a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be a lingering issue. He'll be fine. Gausman, you feel good about. Bassett, you feel good about. Barrios, you feel good about. Kikuchi's been fine, but that's your 5th starter, and you understand it's a tightrope. Basically every time he's on the mound.
That's house money at this point.
Right.
With the way he was last year. That's great. That's found money.
Sure. But, again, if you're fighting to make the playoffs, this is not about the playoff rotation. This is about solidifying your spot. Even when Ryu gets back here and you have 6 arms available to you, I think they have 3 that they really can have faith in. And with Manoah in particular and the analysis of Manoah and trying to project what he's going to bring, it's simply, it's like trusting your gut.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing. You cannot look at him and say, I know he will return. You cannot do that. The only way you might convince yourself that it's going to happen is your gut, which does not seem like a part of the body Ross Atkins generally uses.
Well, they could have left him down in the minors a little longer. They chose not to, and it was a very encouraging first start, and it almost, like, it came back down to reality, the reality that we kind of saw for Manoah this year. And I think that's it now. Like, I think that is what he's going to be the rest of the year, unless miraculously something just flips a switch for the guy and he really does figure it out. But I kind of think that's exactly where he's at. And as far as Ryu goes, Like he's an aging, what is he, 36 now?
36,
He's coming off Tommy
John.
He didn't have a lot of velocity in the first place.
No.
I think that's a very unknown as to what he's going to be when he returns. To think that he's going to come back and save the rotation, I don't know if anyone's thinking that, and if you are, it would seem kind of foolish.
Yes.
It just seems like he's further on the outside than being a factor in a positive way. Like, who knows what that could look like when he comes back.
And plus he'll be probably on a pitch count. There's going to be an innings limit. This is a guy who, at best, was giving you 5 and jumping in an Uber anyway. I mean, your bullpen is going to get strained if and when he returns to the mound. So all of this stuff is hanging over the Jays, and we're 8 days out from a trade deadline. And you got L.A. tonight. And a 3-game series against the Dodgers, which is not going to be easy.
No.
Right? You dropped 2 or 3 against the Pods, 2 or 3 in Seattle. Prior to that, 8 and 9 felt good, but, it happens quickly in pro sports and even quicker in baseball because you're going every single day.
Well, there's some positives at least, and it's hard because sometimes whatever's a positive turns into a negative in the next series, and whatever was a negative turns into the positive, and it's hard to really pinpoint what the thing is at any given time. But like Vladdy's hitting the ball much better now. Like
and
it's
then
going,
Bichette goes 0-4 the whole weekend.
Right. But it's nice to see the ball leaving the ballpark, I guess, right? Because that was an issue at one point this year, not hitting for enough power. So if it can come together at the right time, and I think that's what Ross Atkins and Schneider and everyone there would be thinking, like, man, we just got to get it together.
That's right.
It's like when your golf game, you're like, man, if I could just putt, right? Well, you can't putt. But then the next game you can putt, you can't drive the ball.
Can't drive the ball.
So that's what the Jays are
there.
at.
It's about collectively putting it together. But again, you get this deep into the season, and the trade deadline is now, you lock it in. You got to figure out what you're doing. You got 8 days to figure this out.
Well, I think they know what they need to do because this team is in a win now window, right? Like they need to be buyers at the deadline. It's just like how much you're willing to spend, and do you have enough to acquire what you need to acquire?
We'll see.
We'll see. There's no
I think
secrets.
it's a depth arm. I think it's someone that you could actually trust in the rotation, though. And again, that is what has got to be frustrating for Atkins, is that Ryu could return here. Manoah's back. You're going to have 6 starting arms with legitimate reputations at different parts of their careers.
Dude, would Manoah go to the pen?
I don't see it.
Would he ever? Would they entertain that?
And he's not a power arm right now. Like
No.
his velocity is like he's not a strikeout pitcher. Yes, he had 6 strikeouts yesterday, which was good for him. His slider had a lot more zip. He walked 4 guys. The ball left the park. Like, you can't have that out of the bullpen. You can't go to a guy. Look what they just did with Nate Pearson. Like, Pearson's had 3 or 4 outings that have been gas can disasters, and his numbers have been bloated. Beyond those starts, those numbers and those appearances, he was really, really good. But they sent him down to work on the mechanics because you can't have a gas can, especially into September in your bullpen.
I wonder with
Pearson, you can't have it.
I wonder with him, he's been down that road so many times where he's faced injury and he's had to go down to the minors. I feel like maybe that softens the blow for him going back down there. Like if that was a different guy and maybe that was foreign to him, he'd be like, man, that's a real kick in the pills having to go down right now. But for him, it's like, I've been down this road so many more times than not. I'll just go down there. I'll find whatever I need to find. I'll come back up and build off all the good stuff. Like I feel like that's a possibility for him.
It's possible. That's what they're hoping for.
Yeah.
That's what you're hoping for, right? So the Jays back in action tonight. More on their weekend in Seattle later this afternoon. More on the upcoming trade deadline, which will take place next Tuesday. The arbitrator came through with a number on Ilya Samsonov. We know what that is now. We'll get into it. Pretty wild scene over in the UK as well, the Open Championship. Your boy, Brian Harman, just dummies the field. Brian Harman, the Waggler himself, takes down monsters and wins the Open Championship. We'll get to that as well. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Back up on TSN 4. So Ilya Samsonov was probably hoping his arbitrator was from Saudi Arabia. That would be ideal. If you're an NHL player, like, can you get someone from Saudi possibly to put a number on the table?
Some of that oil money.
Some of that big-time money, because, like, there's a couple of stories in sports right now. Obviously, the Messi scene on Friday night, we'll get to that. Of course he scores that goal. Like, obviously he scores. A set piece, it's beautiful. You knew it was coming. I thought his reaction was amazing, too. This guy scored 700 career goals. and he's jumping into the hands of a teammate. He probably doesn't even know that guy's name. He probably doesn't know his name and doesn't care to know his name. But
Generic
I'm going
teammate.
up. Yeah, I'm going up. You're going to catch me. Think about how nervous that guy was. That guy blows a wheel and takes Messi out. You'd never see him again.
Done. See you later.
Yeah, you're gone. It's like hitting a quarterback in camp.
But that's Messi's bread and butter, man. That's exactly him.
Yeah, 17. He's like, hey, he calls him by the number. Hey, 17. What do you think of that shot? So Messi making his debut, and Messi's making scratch, needless to say. Messi was offered a lot of scratch from Saudi. But this Kylian Mbappe story is wild. So Saudi club Al Hilal has made a world record $332 million bid with PSG, which I don't see how they can turn that down. But then you got to negotiate with the player, and they are willing to offer him, according to reports, a 1-year salary of $776 million.
I don't even believe it when you say it, man. It doesn't compute in my head that
and then
that's
he can
a real
walk.
Figure. Yeah.
It's a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Like Samsonov just got 3.5. He's in Toronto trying to win a cup.
Dude, and he had to listen to his team talk about how bad he is for 6 hours that day.
Right.
Like, we hate you.
Right.
Here's your $3.5
the
million.
new GM, Brad Treliving. You talk about starting on a tough foot. He's got to step in there for arbitration and say, this guy doesn't deserve anything close to 3.5. At least we're pushing for 2.4.
Yeah.
2.4 million. Mbappe could make $776 million, and then after a year, walk and go to Madrid. Or go back to PSG.
Come to the MLS.
Maybe go to MLS. Maybe he buys MLS.
Dude, go to Miami and you can shop at Publix with Messi.
Yes, you can.
Shop at Publix.
Mbappe and Messi down at the Publix
That's
in
why
Miami.
Messi wanted to go to Miami and not to Saudi, because he wanted those Publix sandwiches are top notch.
They do great pre-made food at Publix. Like phenomenal 5-star food.
That's one of those ones where you say, if you know, you know. You just take a picture of it and you send it to your buddies. If you know, you know. You've been there. You've had those sandwiches.
Yeah.
You know what it's all about.
They can run a mean chicken finger and fried chicken in there at a Publix too. I've been in there a few times.
Oh, yeah.
I've made myself familiar with the Publix.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't understand what this Saudi club and the PIF, it's all linked together, really thinks this is going to accomplish. If he comes for that amount of money and then leaves after a year, do you think anyone's watching? You know what I'm saying? Like, who is watching? Like, I understand what Mbappe represents. Like, this is the king of the county right now in international soccer.
Yeah.
He's the best. He's in his prime. He's the man. More so than Messi in terms of what he can actually bring on the pitch. Messi's a bigger brand.
He's younger.
Ronaldo's a bigger brand, but he's still in his prime.
He's the next one.
Exactly.
He's one of those guys.
What is he, 23, 24? You know, he's already won a World Cup. He's a legend already. Kind of like what we were talking about in the previous segment. He could have visions of being GOAT status, right? Like maybe he gets there.
Yeah.
And he might show up for 1 year. No one's going to see him. Like, no one's going to be tracking him, to my understanding. I mean, I understand there will be media there if he has a big highlight like the Messi goal. And then he could walk, and you just have to chew on $776 million.
It's crazy. They have
what is this doing for them?
Well, they have that much money that is basically a non-factor for them.
Right.
But it's not like they're building anything. It's not like they're saying, like, yeah, we're trying to get Champions League and all this kind of stuff. We're going to get exposure. And you're not building anything. You're just having one of the best players in the world wear your jersey, take some pictures, make a lot of money, and he's probably gone, unless you want to give him that money again and again and again.
Maybe, right? But again, this guy's going to be playing with a bunch of guys who are well beneath him talent-wise, clearly. Like, the league is not a high-end league. It's nowhere close to what he's used to playing in right now. And yeah, to your point, obviously they have a lot of money, and these are not stupid people. Like, there is a game plan here about getting into the sports world. We've seen it with Live. We've seen it with different ownership around the world. They're going to get into North America. It's going to happen.
That's what's coming.
That's what's coming. They have a big plan.
And I also,
But this is about bringing them to Saudi Arabia. Like, this is not buying PSG and then keeping Mbappe at a massive price. This is saying, come play in our league, which is a brutal league. And yes, there's other big superstars that have taken the money, And then after a year, you're going to walk, and no one's ever going to remember the fact that you actually played there. They're just going to remember that this Saudi club paid you that amount of money.
Well, and you bring up the point about exposure. I know people that will try and find like streams for soccer games. Like I got some buddies, right? They love Italian soccer, and every once in a while a game's not on like whatever channel it's on here, right? It's like Tele Latino. It's not on, okay? So they'll watch it on a pirated stream. But are you going to do that for Saudi soccer?
No.
No one's doing that for like, you're not passionate about Al Halal or whatever. Maybe you want to see what it looks like when Mbappe's playing there. But once the intrigue factor is over, like, okay, I'm going about the rest of my day here, but whatever soccer I normally
Exactly.
watch.
And I think the same thing applies with Messi and MLS. A big moment will go viral around the world because of who they are. That goal on Friday night by Messi, people in Europe, Asia, around the world woke up to that and said, that's amazing. He did it again, and there would have been millions and millions and millions of people that saw the moment. That doesn't mean they're all showing up the next time he plays.
Maybe not in Europe, but I would say like the Messi thing is not going to be judged on how many wins and losses Miami has in championships they get. It'll be judged on how many new subscribers can they get to that Apple TV thing. Like how many new people are going to watch MLS and get hooked on it because Messi, that's how he's going to be judged.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see it because like Messi is bigger than Mbappe. He's bigger. Like he is a god of the sports world. He is. And he's still got it, clearly. And he's got magic in him. But I just don't picture if you live in Barcelona, you live in Paris, you live in London, and you are a diehard fan of whichever team you've been following your whole life, and your parents follow them, and their parents, and their parents, and all your friends. I don't buy that just because Messi's playing in Miami, you gotta see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think
if you're a Messi super fan,
which there is a certain amount of people that will apply to that. And listen, I'm sure in Argentina they are ecstatic because he's playing in their time zone now.
Yes,
right. Like all of a sudden you can watch your boy prime time playing soccer.
The thing with Europe, like the people in Europe are not going to be able to watch him at 1 a.m. They're not going to watching that in a 7 o'clock Eastern time zone.
Exactly. And again, with Mbappe, there will be a fascination. The French will be fascinated by it. I don't see how he turns this down. You know, I understand morals and ethics. How do you turn down $776 million for 1 year?
Unless you already have $1 billion.
Which he doesn't, to my knowledge.
The only person that would turn down that kind of money is Tiger Woods.
Possibly, because he doesn't think he could follow through playing. Right? Like even that didn't come up enough with the live stuff.
Right, that he wasn't going to be able to play whatever it was, 8, 12, 14, can't even remember. But he wasn't going to be able to play those tournaments and walk and do all that stuff.
Yes.
Right? We just thought, well, Tiger's got so much money, he doesn't need it anyways.
It may have factored in. Also, Tiger had a brand that is so synonymous with the PGA Tour in North America, right? Where Liv was trying to attack the rest of the world, playing in Australia, playing in London, playing in, I think they're in Singapore.
Dude, could you imagine you saw Tiger Woods wheeling around and he had one of those goofy team logos on his hat and shirt and he didn't have the Nike and the TW? That would be really hard to see for me. Just from a kid that grew up watching Tiger every single weekend and like seeing him in that red shirt, that would be weird.
Yeah. Live shot of him at the range at Augusta, and he's got some goofy, like 4 aces gear on.
Dude, he's got the golf ball with the guy with the eyes, and he's flying through the air.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
Can't have it.
No.
Yeah, that alone probably made Tiger say, I'm not doing this. Possibly. But also, he wouldn't be able to follow through. He wouldn't be able to play. You know, but this puts, the whole live stuff into perspective. Like, that was big money they were throwing around.
Yeah.
Reportedly, a couple $100 million at Phil, 125 at DJ, 125 at Koepka, and I think that was for them to be there for a certain amount of time, play every event, be a good soldier. Mbappe's getting all of them combined plus for 1 year. Now, I'm sure there is something in the small print where it's like, you also got to show up here, you got to take pictures with this person, that person's birthday party, you better be prepared to be there, right? Like, there's going to be some stuff that I think comes with it.
Yeah,
but it's just a shocking amount of money. And again, Ilya Samsonov, he got awarded $3.55 million, which I think is appropriate, right? We were having arguments on this last week about were the Leafs, shortchanging him too much? Was he coming in too high? And Marty Baron came on, Mike Johnson came on, and they supplied facts that there's a number of goalies throughout the league that are making $4.9 million. I think it's like 26 goalies or something around the league, including Aiden Hill, who just got that deal. Obviously, he also just supplied a Stanley Cup to Vegas. But I thought this was the appropriate number. I believed it was going to be around 3.5. I thought they'd meet in the middle because he's an RFA. And I think he's still in prove-it mode in terms of his career. He doesn't have enough cachet to demand upwards of 4.5 plus. He didn't have a great statistical playoff, and then he got hurt. So for me, this is a good number. Between him and Wall, the Leafs are going to spend under $4.5 million on their goaltender.
I think it's
which is wild when you think about it.
For the Leafs, I think it's a dream.
Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah, no problem. If he plays to his capability, they're getting a $4 million goaltender for $500,000 less. And the thing that Samsonov had going against him with an arbitration case, and you look at some of the goalies that signed for $4 million, and you can say that the numbers were similar. Those were UFA goalies.
Exactly. They have leverage.
Yeah, they have leverage, but when you go into an arbitration case, you can't use UFA goaltenders as a comparable when you are an RFA.
Right.
So you have to go back through the years and say, okay, who were the RFA guys, whether they had arbitration rights or not, and what did they get? So like Georgiev was an RFA. Like he got 3.4 or 5 with Colorado. So then you see Samsonov get 3.5. Like, okay, it's fair. Based on your market value, it's fair. But I will say, if he plays the way he did last season, during the regular season, and maybe a little bit better because he was really good in those high-danger areas.
Yeah.
He wasn't...
Good numbers, good regular season.
Yeah, but there was times where he struggled on the road. Remember that?
Yep.
If he improves on that. There was times where he struggled on those weird, like, outside angle shots. He improves on that. Man, they're getting a $4 million plus goalie for 3.5. It's a great situation for the Leafs.
Right, and in terms of the long-term stability in net, I mean, it's going to be undetermined, right? Like, it is a gamble if you sign him long-term at this point, too, right? Like prior to this, and they were never going to go more than 2 or 3 years, but he is still in a position where he's got to prove who he is, and he should want to be here because it's a really good team, a good defensive team. It's a big market where it's going to amplify your stats if they're positive. And listen, if he plays well, he'll likely want to stay. You know, there's this anxiety that is permeating through the fan base, where everyone's so terrified players are going to leave because they played well, where I think it's the opposite. Like if you play well somewhere and you settle in, you want to stay.
Yeah.
Now, the cap complicates things, and I hate the salary cap, and I hate the fact that Bettman, and company allowed it to get to this point. And they knew what they were doing when they got in here. When they forced the hard salary cap, what it really did was alleviate the pressure off the owners and put all of it on the players. Because all the owners can do is say, we spent to the cap. What else do you want out of me? Like the Matthews situation is an example. If there was no salary cap, there would be Leaf fans and media, myself included, saying, give this guy $20 million a year.
Dude, they would fund it.
Absolutely.
They would. You could put out a GoFundMe. They do that in Europe. They say, we want to sign this player. Will you guys in the community chip in? People will do that.
Sure, but not necessary.
Okay, that's a crazy
MLSE
statement.
is worth like $8 billion.
Yeah.
They can pay it themselves. Right? There's nothing the Leafs can do. You can only spend to the cap. It's a finite number. But if there was no cap, I'd be all over it. I'd say, give this guy a 5-year deal, $100 million.
Yeah, it's not your money.
It's not your money. And guess what? He's worth it because of who he is and what he can bring and the jersey sales. And there's no salary cap. So get aggressive and get crazy and go win and give Willie 10. Who cares? But you can't do that.
Yeah.
And it sucks for the players, but that's the reality. It's a hard cap, so they got to chew on it.
And you know what? To be fair, there's some owners that were against the salary cap and didn't want it in the first place because they knew they had deep pockets and they said, if I want, I'll spend my money the way I want. Thank you very much. But we have to always kind of appease the smaller market teams, and that's the NHL that Bettman has built. And that's where they're at. And you brought up a good point earlier about some of the leagues being ahead of the curve as far as what they want to do and innovating. And like the NHL, this is something they are probably never going to veer away from. It is a hard cap system. We're not going to get creative at all. You figure it out. And it kind of, if you're just a regular fan, you're just a guy who comes home from work and you have a couple beers sitting on the couch watching a hockey game, like that's the fan. Why does he need to figure out the cap implications of his favorite team? You're hurting the casual fan more than anything.
Absolutely. It's confusing. Look at where the Leafs are at right now. They are way over the salary cap. Now, Jake Muzzin will be on long-term IR, and I think there's an understanding that Matt Murray is either going to get bought out, which means he'll have about a $680,000 cap hit this year, but $2 million dead cap the next year, which is not ideal. He'll go on long-term IR, or they'll flip him with an asset to get rid of him. So he's not going to be a part of the team. At worst, it's going to be like a cap hit of about $680,000. So Muzzin will go on long-term IR, or they'll try to flip him and move on, and someone else will take him. Murray maybe gets bought out. That is going to alleviate some of the pressure, but they're still going to be like $2.5 million over. Now, they're not stupid. They signed Domi, they signed Bertuzzi, they signed Klingberg, they signed Reeves. They didn't snap out of it after that and say, oh, what are we going to do? Like now we're really screwed. We got crazy on July 1st. They obviously have a plan. I'm sure they have a number of avenues they feel they can go down that will alleviate the cap. The question is it going to cost them someone that makes them a worse team? And I think that is a legitimate possibility here.
Yeah.
If it's Brody, if it's Yarncroke, some combination of Lafferty and Timmins.
That's where I was at. It's like, okay, so you're just going to carry a 12-6 roster,
but all year.
Goalies.
I mean, that's tough. Man.
Well, remember they did it to start last year, and we were like, okay, guess what? Lines are the same today. Of course they are, because they have no movement, right? So then you just kick the can down the road until someone gets hurt, and you can finagle the cap that way a little bit, but. I mean, there's not a lot of room for error when you do that kind of stuff. But that's the reality of where they are and where they've been the last few years.
Yeah, well, that's it. And that's why I think they're probably still comfortable in this position. As much as on paper it looks, like an unenviable position. I'm sure they'd rather have cap relief right now. But they've been working with the hard salary cap and no movement and no flexibility for a long time.
And we should also say, they're not the only team.
There's
the
a lot of
Golden Knights had to dress 5 defensemen multiple times because they were so up against the cap. So it's not just unique to the Leafs. There's a lot of teams in this situation.
Yeah, and I'm still bracing on Brad Treliving making a deal.
Oh yeah,
right. Like he's made signings.
Yeah,
and he's made moves that have plugged in where you needed players to plug in with the amount of turnover, with Kerfoot going and others. They needed, basically Hall is out, Klingberg's in for more money in terms of a right shot defenseman, different style, but point being is right shot defenseman playing in the top 6. Bertuzzi, Domi, Reeves, those are signings. I think he is going to do something. I think he'd like to attack his defense. But it's difficult to do when you just don't have a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
And I'm not bracing for anything crazy, but I don't think it's a 0% chance something crazy won't happen. And by crazy, I mean like a big boy crazy.
Yeah, the one that keeps going around is the TJ Brody, and I don't know why it goes around that much because if you don't love that he's not super physical, I think that's fine. But I think he does enough good on this team. He's not the first guy I'm saying they got to get rid of him. And is he bringing you back that big burly guy that can kind of dish the puck the way you're hoping? I don't know. It's hard to say. But yeah, I'm not 0% either. I just think it's hard to do something right now. I would say it's probably something that happens more once they get into the season and see where they're at.
Yeah.
Because Kaz and AK were asking me this morning, do you think it's going to be lesser of a defensive team this year? They're going to struggle. Is Samsonov going to see way more rubber this year? There's a chance. But I think they need to see that play out before they can just, fantasize in their head about what it's going to be defensively. You got to see it happen on the ice first.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And with Brody, I don't see a possibility of them buying him out. I think you could flip him. You may not, if you don't want to get something back that is immediately going to go into your lineup that's going to cost money, you could flip him for futures. That's not ideal. Again, that makes your team worse.
That makes your decor worse,
Absolutely.
Unless there's someone coming in.
But there is something to be had there if need be.
Yeah.
I don't picture a scenario where you're buying him out. All right, back into the Jays to start the 5 p.m. hour. We'll continue to track this Kylian Mbappe situation. I can't imagine anything breaks on the show today, but for $776 million, if they call him in the middle of the night and demand an answer, you better have one ready. That's a lot of scratch. Frankie Corrado's in here. I'm Brian Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, so we're back on TV. I'm already regretting that because that means everyone can criticize my gear today. And I'm wearing a suit. I was doing a SportsCenter hit, and I lost the tie. And because I'm hunched over, my posture's terrible. But it's a rather aggressive collar. Admittedly.
Dude, it's also an aggressive button situation on your shirt.
But it's the summertime, right? We're back on TV. I'm trying to bring the heat as much as I can. And it's an obnoxious collar. I'll give you that. But people are calling me Brian Colangelo, and I don't know really how to react to that. I guess I'll take that as a compliment. I mean, he's a pretty sharp guy. Now, that's ridiculous. That, like, Colangelo might sue us for that because his collar is nowhere near as ridiculous as the one we're seeing on TSN4.
You have a
but I can't argue against mine.
Do you have a burner account that
I need my wife to get
back
one.
right now?
I need my wife to get
account?
one. That's one of the great burner account tweets ever. As if this wasn't Colangelo.
Yeah, it's a normal caller.
This is a normal caller. Move on. Find a new slant. Like, who would possibly care about Brian Colangelo's caller slander?
Right.
Unless it's Brian Colangelo.
Yeah.
Or his wife.
Or his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like Kirk Cousins, his wife dresses him for the games.
Did you find that out in the
Find
quarterback thing?
She dresses him for the games. So there's a situation. If you made fun of what Kirk is wearing, she would have an issue with that.
Right. Yeah, maybe she's got a burner account and saying you got to leave Kirk Cousins alone. I think Kirk's doing pretty well, though.
Dude, it's an aggressive button right now.
Yeah.
It really is. But it's okay. It's a
whatever.
summer.
It's going to happen. It's going to continue. It might just get worse.
Maybe Chris can go get us like a gold chain or something for you. That'll be good.
I think it's a good look. Personally, I think it's a solid look. It's a summer look. It's a Sports Center look. I don't ever play that again, please. That scared the hell out of me, and I hate hearing that. Shout out to
break.
Koliakovo.
We got to go.
OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.